Hello, thank you for joining us today. Today I will be highlighting Atago's PAL BX salt unit. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, this unit is actually going to combine two different scales into one. It's just a super convenient way to go about your Brix and salt measurements all at once. It's actually very straightforward. Super compact, and we can get a little bit into the measurement process so you guys get a better feel for that. You'll probably notice there's a couple other components here which we'll get into, but the main thing that you need is just this small little unit here, which is our PAL BX salt. Before we get into that, I did want to mention, in case there has been some review on your side, we do also have a PAL BX Salt Plus 5, which basically has the same functionality. We're going to be focused on the regular PAL BX Salt, but keep in mind that if you are looking to create your own scales and keep those in your unit easily accessible, you can use that BX Salt Plus 5 as well. We'll talk a little bit later about how that might come into play, but very similar units, similar functionality and everything like that. So the first thing I wanted to do is just give you guys a look at the unit. There's probably a few people trickling in, so whether you're coming from industries that are focused on manufacturing different condiments or sauces, soups, we can also look at things like purees, even more solid samples like salmon, or if you have chips or something like that. This unit is very versatile, and it will give you the ability to get those Brix and salt concentration readings, basically regardless of your sample type. So let's take a quick look up close here. I do want to just kind of highlight the general design of our unit here. So we can get a good view there. So this is actually, you might notice if you've seen our refractometers here before, that this is a little bit different, and you'll see those two little dots there in the prism area. So this is actually an electrical conductivity meter. It's going to operate slightly differently than a refractometer would, because it is using electrical conductivity, and that's the way that it's generating these salt concentration readings, which are going to be on a scale of grams per 100 grams. So that is what you're looking at in the area here, which is basically where the prism and the sample stage is that we normally see with a refractometer. But other than that, the design is virtually the same. We have a small 100-gram unit here. As you can see, ergonomic shape, fits right in your hand very easily here. We can see that there are some interesting angles involved here. So this little runoff section, that allows for very easy cleanup. So you can actually stick this unit right under running water just to clear the sample stage, and we've got an easy runoff here because of that design there. And this is, I did want to mention, this is IP65 for those who are familiar with ingress protection. So that means you're basically able to not submerge this unit in water, but you are able to subject it to that type of environment. Running water is just fine, and it is going to do very well versus dust as well with that IP65 rating. So nice little feature there. We do have on the other side here, this is our battery cap. Good to keep that in mind for periodic replacement. When you are troubleshooting the unit, that is the first thing you want to do, is make sure that that's intact. We want to make sure that's nice and sealed so no sample is able to get in, and that you have supplied fresh batteries on an as-needed basis. We also do, on the same side here, have a little lanyard hole, so that's going to be right there. Make it nice and easy for you to carry this unit around. So these are really nice features of all of our digital units here. So very accessible, very compact, and nice and easy to handle here. So regarding the layout, you can see we usually have between 2 and in this case we have a 3rd button there. So we're going to have our standard start button to get our measurements underway, 0 for a 0 setting, which we'll get into in just a moment here, and you can see a little heart here. That's going to be for the low sodium index, which I will talk about in a moment. But very simple, just have 3 buttons, and with these 3 buttons you can actually do quite a few things, including accessing NFC, changing the date and time, looking at that ratio of salt to Brix, things like that. So let's take a little look at how we would conduct a measurement and 0 set prior to that, so you guys can get a good feel for it. So I'll go ahead and zoom out here. I did want to mention again, there's just, with this unit especially, there's just so many different applications. So you could be looking at even like curry or various soups, barbecue sauce, mayonnaise, tons of different applications available for this. So before we did get into physically measuring, one thing that's good to keep in mind is when you are taking a measurement, it's good to consider the contents. So basically, if you are dealing with a particularly high in Brix sample, so if you're at 6% or higher, you are going to want to dilute. So we have a couple things here for that. We can dilute our sample, and we've got a little scale and beaker to help us with that process here. But if you have a lot of dissolved solids in your sample, high salt concentration, particularly if it's at 10% or higher, and if you do have that 6% Brix reading, you are going to want to dilute. So I'll show you how to do that in just a second here with these components. But first thing we want to do, basically regardless of the unit that we're using, we're going to want a 0 set. So as I was showing before, we have this little 0 button. So we're going to do that to make sure we have our ground 0 set. Put this over here and get a view there. So we can see for our salt, we are reading 000 right now, which is exactly what we want. All we need is air, and we're going to be able to 0 set, so that's perfect. We are seeing an LLL come up for Brix, which is expected. This is letting us know we have insufficient sample volume in order to conduct that measurement, but because we don't have anything, that's totally okay. We do have a couple other errors that you might encounter depending on the circumstance, which we'll touch on later, and you guys can feel free to ask any questions if you have any about those specific errors, but this one here is okay. So with that 000 set for our salt, we can now just take a little bit of distilled water, and you don't need much, about 0.3 milliliters is what we're looking for. We're just going to go ahead and hit start. And we're seeing in this case, probably because we were active with our unit, we're a little bit beneath that 0.0 setting. So all we're going to want to do here is just hit that 0. We can see the 3 zeros come up for our Brix, and now we have properly 0 set the instrument. So that's what we're looking for. We want to have that 000 for salt and 0.0 for Brix. Things are set to go. Okay. So when you do have sample or anything on the sample stage here, we do recommend that you will use a non-abrasive material. So there are plenty of different options available. You can use lint-free wipes. We highly recommend those. So this is going to not scratch the unit. get that cleared off for you. Just make sure it's nice and dry there. Now, since we are ready to measure, I do have some hoisin sauce here. So this is something that we can just automatically realize that is going to be high in Brix because it is a very sweet product. So I'm going to just go ahead and get into the dilution process since we know that that's going to be needed. It is above that 6% threshold, at or below that, above that 6% threshold. So what we're going to do is strive for 10 grams of our sample and 90 grams of water to get that 1:10 ratio. So that, just monitoring our numbers here. We can also, this might be a good opportunity. The main thing is you want to have that 1:9 ratio. So because of the volume that we're dealing with here, we'll probably just do that 1:9 as opposed to 10 to 90. So, and mainly I just want to give you guys a glimpse of what it looks like. We don't need to get it 100% perfect today, but see how that looks. That's about right. So we do have our one. I'm going to go, and it's good to keep in mind that we really want to stir well. So if your sample's been sitting for a while, you are going to want to remember to stir and make sure things are properly dissolved. That way you're getting the right proportion. Now again, we don't need to be perfect here. Try and get a couple more drops maybe. That should be good. Grab that spoon maybe. Good to get that nice and mixed in. Again, what's cool about this instrument is not every sample, so it will depend on your industry, your application, but not every sample will require dilution. It's just kind of depending. So this is a thicker paste, and again, it's very high in Brix, so we are making sure to dilute and get that dissolving activity in here. So we'll give that a shot here. Again, we don't need much for the physical measurement here, just a few milliliters, and we will be able to generate a reading. So, see what we can get. Just a bit. And we can see it just takes a couple seconds, really quite quick. We're able to generate both of those readings. So we're at 5.2% Brix, 0.55% salt concentration. So basically what we're talking about is a substance that is 50% Brix, quite high in sugar content, with 5.5% being comprised of salt. We'll do another reading just for consistency here. So something to note, this unit here is actually going to give you plus or minus 0.2% for the Brix. You can see it's nice and consistent there, very quick. So you aren't going to get much fluctuation, plus or minus 0.2%. For salts, depending on the content, you can actually get up to 0.005% accuracy, plus or minus. So we can see very consistent, very accurate there, which is pretty remarkable given how convenient the unit is. So again, we're going to want to use a lint-free wipe here. Clear our sample stage of the sample. And ideally, we are using the running water next to us just to make this a little more efficient. That's a really nice quality of these digital instruments. You know, the analog, you can kind of get caught up with the daylight plate, and especially if it's kind of a gooey sample. But this is super easy with running water. Now I did want to mention, as I was mentioning with the numbers, you are going to essentially be multiplying by 10 because we are doing that dilution process. So just good to keep in mind, you will be multiplying by 10 in these instances. So because we took that measurement, we can actually explore this button here, which is going to give us the low sodium index. So if I press that, we're actually seeing right away we have a 0.106 ratio. And that is telling us, sorry, I lost the measurement, but that's basically telling us that we're looking at a salt concentration of about 10% of the Brix concentration, which means you know, this is a very sweet sample as compared to the salt that we have in there. So that's a nifty little tool there. That about does it for the measurement process. I did want to show you guys quickly, I think we have some soup here as well. So this is what it will look like if we do not need to dilute, because again, this is not always required. So we can see here we have just a soup, little udon soup, which is obviously diluted already by nature. But what I can do is just take some of the sample. We were pretty sure to make sure it was nice and dissolved in there. You want to always make sure you stir, but just a little bit in there, hit start, and there we go. We have a Brix and salt reading right away. So in this case, still getting those nice consistent measurements. In this case, we can just look at their ratio, our low sodium index, 0.385. So a little bit different with this sample type, but very convenient, as we can see. I did want to give you guys a glimpse of one of the features of this unit, which is NFC. So this is actually going to be a nice tool for you to review your data, whether it be at later dates or if you're looking to transmit it or whatnot. There are a couple different options for NFC. There's plenty of apps out there that you can use. They have different capabilities, different ways of presenting the data and whatnot. But it's very simple to use. I'll just give you a quick rundown here. So we can get a look here. but I'm just pulling up NFC Tools. This is just one of many different apps that you can use. So all we're going to need to do with this instrument is just put it in a way where we can get our phone on the bottom section, hit read, and that's all there is to it. So once we have that, let's do that one more time here. So we have ready to scan, holding it to the bottom of the instrument, and we've got it. So we can actually see, if we look at a text file of our records, all the different measurements we've taken. And the nice thing about this is it's actually denoted by time. The instrument does have the ability to change time whenever you like. But you'll see both the Brix and the salt concentration come up on there and when it was taken. So nice little tool there. I did want to mention we've had nice luck today with our zero setting and consistency of readings. I did want to mention here you can use what we call a citrus solution. I'm sorry, not a citrus solution, a NaCl solution for reference setting. So in the cases where you think there is maybe some fluctuation or not quite consistent with your readings, you can use 2.5% NaCl. We do sell other different concentrations up to 9 and 15% as well, but basically that's going to enable you to set that reference point of 2.50 just like you would with water at 0.0. So just something to keep in mind in case you're exploring that option as well. I did want to just quickly mention, we probably won't have time to fully get into it today, but there are offset features available with this instrument. So what that enables you to do, see if we can pull it up right away, is you are going to be able to add or subtract a value from the reading that is generated automatically. You're also able to modify the coefficient in a way that you would like. So this would, for the coefficient specifically, that would operate on a scale of I believe 0.50 to 5.0, that you're able to set that as you like. So all you need to do to get to that offset section is just hold down that 0 button and it takes you right there. So now we can see there's a B coming up. That's going to be for basically designating a specific addition value to your measurements. So we're just going to cycle through that. This would be to change the value. We're going to just leave it as 0 for now. And there we have the coefficient popping up there set to 1 as the default. So I could change that as I would like, but just something to keep in mind, especially if you have titration results that you're comparing your measurements with this unit. So nice little feature there. Just coming back to the errors very quickly, we do have the LLL for insufficient sample. We do have HHH, maybe you've seen that before. This is going to basically indicate that you are out of measurement range. We could see something like AAA come up. This basically is telling you you are trying to zero set with something that isn't water. Pretty straightforward stuff. It's all represented in the manual if you have any questions about that. So that about does it, I think. Hopefully you guys were able to get a good feel for the PAL BX Salt here. I would like to open it up for questions here, but just prior to, I did want to mention next week on the 12th we do have a meetup on the Repo 4. So this is going to be for honey moisture analysis. It's going to be run by Emily, so be sure to check that out on the 12th. It's going to be at the same time here. So yeah, if there are any questions, I'd Love to open it up here. Okay, looks like we are okay. Thank you for joining us today, guys. This was on the Brix salts. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out here to Otago USA. Thank you so much.